do you want to talk about, it seems like a lot of people who do this healing work have like a moment in their life that they call like an awakening. Something stirs in them, something shifts, and then they, go into learning this work. So, did you have something like that?
I did. I wouldn't say it was like one earth shattering moment, but it was a series of things that happened over quite a few years. And it started, I think, right before COVID. I started just feeling like something wasn't fulfilling in my life. Even though I had a very nice life, I do have a doctorate in clinical psychology. I was teaching mostly, which I enjoyed to a degree, but it just wasn't really fulfilling me. And then when COVID happened and everyone was kind of stuck home and a lot of people were switching jobs, I started thinking about like, what do I really want to go back to when all of this ends? And I didn't really want to teach. I really wasn't feeling clinical work. I'd always struggled, even when I was going through school, like with the clinical aspect of it, because I never liked diagnoses. I never liked labeling people with things. And you have to if you're working with insurance companies, like you literally have to.
Yeah.
And the problem that I always had was that people identify with it. One is like they take it on as an identity, and that just becomes very problematic
Yeah.
for them in their life. But the other thing I noticed, because I was primarily working with teenagers, is that the diagnosis never went away. So when you got the paper trail, they had this like file this big with 100 diagnoses. Like no one ever took anything away. They would just like add on top of it, and it always bothered me.
And like a burden to those people, like it would just kind of follow them, and they couldn't, like, yeah.
Yeah, I never liked it. And I remember even in college, I had a professor that said, if I told you, like, I was talking to someone right now or I could see someone, would you think I was crazy? And, we had this whole discussion about it. Like, well, how do we know that you really aren't tapped into something that's just because I can't see it doesn't mean you're really not tapped into something, right? So that really kind of opened my mind to, is schizophrenia even really a thing? Like maybe the people who have these psychotic disorders aren't seeing and hearing things that aren't there, but they're tapped into something that we're not experiencing, So I just always struggled with diagnoses. And so even though I had this degree, like I wasn't feeling like I was totally resonant with the field once I was in it. And so when everyone was kind of reflecting on their choices and what am I going to do with my life post COVID,
with all that downtime that we had, right?
So when I went to school, I also was trained as a hypnotherapist. So I do have a specialty in hypnosis. And at the time that I was trained, I thought what I wanted to do was work with women in childbirth and help them have natural births. And I never actually did use it for that reason, but that was always like the reason I learned it and what I thought I wanted to do with it. So I had started thinking about, I wanted to just get back and focus only on hypnosis. Like, well, what could I do with hypnosis? And then I started learning about past life regression. I started reading Dolores Cannon and Brian Weiss books, and those are two famous past life regression therapists who saw many thousands of patients and chronicled like their experiences and then wrote books about everything that
and
they
it
saw.
helped them because I read Brian Weiss, Many Lives and Many Masters, and it really does seem to help them to know something in the past that they get to sort of reckon with and recognize, and
bring it forward. And that's what they were seeing, is that there were people who had physical ailments that right after hypnosis they were cured, because it was like, there are people, like for example, that have like very serious shoulder pain or something, and then they find out that they were shot in a past life regression, and suddenly having that knowledge makes the shoulder pain go away. And that's just one small example, but there are more serious illnesses or things that people have that they don't realize that they're carrying from a past life, or that whatever, like there are things that we've all done in past lives, that knowledge that we had that could be beneficial to us if we just tapped into it. And so it's healing. It is exciting and interesting as well, but it is also meant to be a very healing experience. So I was just curious, like I was like, well, we didn't talk about past life, I didn't learn that. I'm like, I want to learn that. And so I started with a lot of the stuff I did during COVID was just online. Like Dolores Cannon had an online course. She passed on, but her kin still teach her methods. And so I took that, and it was really fascinating. Of course, I loved it, and I thought, okay, this is what I want to do. But in the meantime, in that class, I met a bunch of people who were very spiritual and were doing really interesting things that I maybe had heard of, but was not part of that world. I met people doing all kinds of spiritual healings. Not only things like Reiki, but just working with crystals and getting messages from spirit and just doing all these things that I was like, wow, I don't know anyone like these people. And so it was interesting, like, hearing their stories and whatever. But the really interesting thing that started happening is anytime I was working with someone one-on-one, because we had to practice with each other, was a lot of them would have messages for me, like, I'm getting told from my spirit guides to give you a message. And the message was always related to, like, I need to step into my power. I'm here to be a healer. I need to kind of get to work. Like, telling me that I've been holding myself back. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, I just kept getting that message over and over again. And so then I was left to wonder, like, well, what does that mean? What am I supposed to do? Like, I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Is it supposed to be past life? Is it something else? So around the same time, I got introduced to tuning forks, and I started with just one, and then I got more than one, and then I got a bunch, and I just fell in love with my tuning forks. So then I took some classes again online, just kind of learning, like, what do you do with these? How do you help people with them? And then it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll do tuning forks, and I'll do past life regression. And then somewhere in there, I decided I wanted to learn Reiki, because I thought, I just was curious, can I, because I was reading, like, as a practitioner, you could feel the energy flowing through you, and you can help other people, like, by channeling this energy. So I was curious about that. So then I learned Reiki, and I was really surprised that I could feel the energy running through me and that I could help other people, and that was very surprising to me. And so then after that kind of opened the door to other energy healing techniques. So I've learned some additional techniques. But also when I was in the past life regression class, it was a different hypnosis class, but whatever. There was a guy that popped into my life. We were supposed to practice together, and we never did, but he popped in long enough to say, have you ever heard of the body code? And I said, no, I've never heard of the body code. And he said, you should get the book. So I was like, okay. So, like, without even knowing what it was or anything, I just ordered the book. But I really believe he popped in to tell me that, because that has been the technique that's resonated with me most. And that's, essentially part of what I was doing on you.
Which I just learned about this 2 days ago. No, it was just yesterday. And it was a long time. She's in her 70s. Her name's
Susan Brady.
Susan Brady she also works out of the Journeys Path. But anyway, she's been doing healing work for a long, long time. And that was the first thing that she, like, glommed onto as, like, a concrete, like, book, method. And I have never heard of it before. So do you want to give us, like, the scoop on, like, what's the gist
Sure.
of it?
It's an energy healing technique, but the reason that I loved it so much is because it's kind of, I always call it like a left-brained energy healing technique, because with Reiki or other energy healing, you're a channel and you're sending energy into someone and you're trusting the flow of that energy to go where it's needed. Like, you're not necessarily, if you know that something's wrong with them, you can kind of channel it to their knee if their knee hurts or whatever. But generally, you're just, like, trusting that the energy does what it
You're
needs
just
to do.
a conduit.
You're just a conduit.
Letting
You're
it flow.
trusting. And and that's fine, and that works, and it's great for a lot of people. But I had a hard time with that, just being more scientific-minded person coming from the background that I have. I wanted to know more about, like, well, how's the energy working, or how do I send it exactly where I need it to go, or whatever. So I like the body code because it was developed by a guy named Bradley Nelson, and it came to him. He was a chiropractor. And he was getting frustrated because a lot of his patients, he was helping with chiropractic work, and they would leave the session feeling great, and then, like, a week or whatever, they'd come back and their symptoms had reverted. And he just kept seeing this, like, they'd get better and then they'd revert. And he was like, why is that happening? And so he kind of channeled the information, how through spirit or whatever, he kind of got that it was related to trapped emotions, because he was he was fixing them physically, but because they had these trapped emotions, their body wasn't holding the changes. And so he started with something called the emotion code, which is very easy to learn and do even on yourself. And he has a book, and you can get the book. But basically, it's a chart that has, like, 60 emotions on it. And I've since learned there are some additional emotions that sometimes I'll check into, but essentially there's, like, 60 main emotions that can be trapped in people. And so when you do the emotion code, what you're doing is you're holding a problem that someone has. So if they have a sleep problem or a knee pain or whatever their issue is, you're holding that in your intention, and then you're asking yes/no questions to their subconscious mind. And then so you're basically asking, is there, like, an emotion at the root of this problem? So with the emotion code, it's only emotions. The body code is much more expansive. But typically you're going to find that yes, there is some kind of emotion at the root of the problem. So if the person has, arthritis in their knee or whatever, you might find that they have trapped shame or trapped guilt or something like that's like literally trapped in their knee, and once you release that, their knee gets much better. So the emotion code is just the emotions. After he had great success with that, and he started using that with his chiropractic patients, just releasing emotions, and their adjustments were sticking and they were staying healthier, and he had great success. Somehow he kind of downloaded the next portion of what he wanted to do, which was the body code. So the body code includes the emotion code plus a bunch of other things. So with the body code, and he developed this whole mapping system, so I actually have an app on my phone that can identify over 800 different imbalances in the body. So it's not only trapped emotions, but there are trapped like mental energies. There can be, and they can come from any point. They can come from your life, they can be inherited, they can come from a past life, they could be absorbed from someone else's
It could happen from one shitty thing that happened to you, and then it just stuck.
It's stuck. Yeah, and the more serious something is when the more shocking to your system, the more likely it is to get stuck. But also, if you're in a state of imbalance already from something else, whether it's like maybe you have the flu at the time or something, and then something happens, even if it wasn't that big of a deal, if it was big enough and your body's already imbalanced, it's more likely to get stuck. So if you're living an unbalanced kind of life, even if you don't have major traumas, things are more likely to get stuck.
And then it just compounds, and then it gets more stuff.
And if you are living a pretty healthy life, but you have something major happen, someone suddenly dies, or you're in a serious accident, or some kind of trauma happens to you, that can get stuck too. But so can physical trauma. So if you have something like a car accident, the energy of the physical impact can actually get stuck in your body and cause problems. So it's not only emotions, but it could be like physical trapped energy. He looks at things like saboteur kind of energy. So like if someone ever kind of cursed you, whether like intentionally or even unintentionally, you can have courting attachments with other people. I think you had some of those when I worked on you.
Yeah, and that's actually the reason I came to you, was because I had these attachments to other people that I'm like, I'm spending too much energy worrying about this person, thinking about this person. And then that's like an imbalance, something that...
Yeah, because it literally like sucks your life force out of you when you have these courting attachments. So all of that's in the body code. But you can find like pathogens, so things like mold or fungus or parasites, viruses, bacteria, all that kind of stuff. He has toxins, so it can be things like heavy metals or agricultural toxins, pesticides, herbicides, anything like that. I mean, there's so many. So with everything within the body code, there's like over 800. And so when you do find something that is like a trapped emotion or trapped mental energy or like a belief of some kind, then you're trying to figure out, did it come from this life? Was it inherited? And if it was inherited, did it come from the mother's side, the father's side? Did they inherit it? How many generations? So sometimes you find some of these things have been passed on for a really, really long time.
I believe that. I think because they don't get healed, and then it just doesn't go anywhere. It has to come into, whether it's learned behavior, somehow biological, which is this growing field of like, how do things get passed on to generations, ancestral trauma, which I find so fascinating. So it can work on all that stuff. And this is the part that like I'm having a hard time understanding. You were working on my like trapped energies, but like from your house, and I just was like doing my thing, like living my life, but you're doing that. And I mean, you told me you were going to do it, so like it's good. I gave you permission, but could you do that for anybody?
With permission, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So the permission is what allows me to kind of tap into the subconscious mind. So there's lots of layers to this. First of all, a lot of people don't believe it, and they're not even willing to like give it a try because they just think it's so far out there. But we live in our entire universe is energy. We are energy, even as physical bodies, we are energy. And if you understand anything about the quantum realm, like within the quantum realm, we're all one. There's no time, there's no space, there's no distance. And so all it takes is intention to entangle your energy with someone else's. So essentially what I'm doing with permission is entangling our fields, our quantum fields together. And so then I'm tapping into your subconscious mind, just asking questions. So the other piece is people get freaked out, like, oh, she's reading my mind. Like, no, I'm not reading your mind. I don't know. I mean, I get information about, like I might get something like there was a trapped trauma at age 7, but I don't know what happened to you or what that was, or I mean, I might get some kind of information that hints at something, but like I don't know any details, and I'm not sharing it with any. It's just going to you because you might need to know something that. Because for certain traumas, your subconscious mind wants you to recognize the event. For others, it doesn't. But sometimes it's like it just wants you to know that it was this particular thing that caused the trauma and it's being released. So sometimes there are some minor details that I get just to be able to communicate that with you, but I'm not reading your thoughts, your mind, or know anything about it. So that freaks people out too. But yeah, so with permission, then I'm able to do that. Now, some people ask, can I do it without permission? Because I've had people come to me like, oh, my so-and-so, my husband could really use this. Can you do this? And I've tried. And I can to a certain degree. So basically, it's kind of like Reiki. Like you can send Reiki with the highest intention and love to someone else. Whether they receive it or not is up to their higher self. Like, because their higher self could say, nope, that's not in their best interest right now. I will divert this elsewhere. Thank you, but no thank you. Like they need to go through this lesson. So sometimes the higher self will turn away the healing. So the same thing happens to me, but I know that. So like I will ask, do I have permission? And I will get told yes or no. And typically when I have permission, they only will give me just a couple things that are really holding them back. Like these few things are keeping them from even moving forward. Like they're more stuck than they need to be.
Yeah.
It's beyond a lesson. Like, because some of us have lessons that we have to have the pain or whatever because it's a life lesson that we've chosen to learn and we have to work our way through that,
Okay.
So I can't help people like that without permission. But if it's something like this person is just so desperate, like they're near suicide, or like even there's like I've had like someone that has an entity attachment on them, so they can't even think straight anymore. They'll let me like remove the entity just so they can kind of get back to center and then go through their lesson or whatever. So I can sometimes release some things on, but I can't do a whole session without someone's permission, and I wouldn't anyway.
Yeah.
Like why would I do that? But
well, I guess for their greater good, if somebody's kind of just closed-minded or like not willing to believe that this is possible, but you can see that they have this like burden, I could see the temptation. I would be tempted to do it, especially if it was someone I cared about or but
and I think I did more of that when I was first starting, because when I was learning it, I was asking everyone I knew, like, hey, I've learned this technique and it's really awesome, can I try it on you? And you wouldn't believe how many people said no to me. I had a lot of people say no. I was offering to do it for free. I was like telling them, because they would have specific problems, like I can help you with that. No, not interested. And a lot of them didn't tell me why, but I think there was one, that fear of like me being in their head, which is really an unfounded fear. And I don't really know if there was another fear, but I did have one person specifically say no to me because she believed it was against God. Like she was very Christian and she said it's against God. So I mean, there's some religious programming and stuff in some people, but I had a lot of people turn me down. And so early on I was pushy about it though, like, no, really, I can help you. And I've just learned now to let them come to, like, if someone wants what I offer, they'll come to me. Like it doesn't help me to push myself on someone else, even if I really believe I can help them.
that makes sense. And I think in general, I think I'm figuring that out too. Like people are just ready when they're ready. But how do people find you?
Well, I have a website and I work at the Journey's Path. So if they follow the Journey's Path at all, they would see me. So I, host my events and see clients out of there as well. But now that I've taken on the Wellness Center Manager position, I'm there a lot too. So people come in and oftentimes I will, like, if someone says they're looking for a crystal because they have anxiety, I will usually mention I can help anxiety. But a lot of people don't believe me.
Yeah.
I'm struggling. I had a guy come in looking for stuff to clear his house because he felt like there was entities in his house. And I've cleared homes of entities. It's like I could do it. And he's like, "What do you charge?" I'm like, like $50. He's like, "No way! You can remove an entity for only $50." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why is it so cheap?" I'm like, "Because it takes me 5 minutes." And he's like, "I don't believe you." I'm like, "Okay." You don't have to believe me.
So this is like, so as you're going through this, it's COVID. You're going inward. You're figuring this stuff out. Did it freak you out that you started to be able to have this?
Yeah.
And
yeah, because when I first learned it, Well, first I started with Reiki, so I was trying the.
Which is very peaceful, and like you said, it's just energy flowing in a positive way.
Right. And I didn't have a lot of people to try it on because my family really wasn't interested. Like my immediate family, I don't have much outside of my immediate family, and my husband and kids weren't totally like into me testing things out.
I get that, yeah.
So the people that I had were people like my mom's in Georgia, and the people that I kind of knew were not around here. So I was like, can I just try this on a distance? And they were feeling like they were like, yeah, I feel really relaxed. Like, really? Like, does this, like I was having a hard time believing it, but I'm like, whatever. My husband's like, saying it's just placebo or whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. But then when I started learning the body code and I was getting this very specific information, and the first person I helped was myself. Like I had chronic migraines that I cured with the body code. And so because I was at the point where I was having them every single day, and I could feel it at night. It was disrupting my sleep. I'd feel them coming on, and I'd wake up with them, and it was becoming really bad.
Yikes.
So that first, like I did it, whatever day, that night was like probably the first night that I wasn't having the migraine in the night, and I woke up without one. I was like, wow, like are they really? I didn't know what to think. Like, are they gone? Are they like? Am I just having a good day? I didn't know what to make of it, but then I went days, weeks, months. I mean, it's been over. I mean, I'm not saying I haven't had any. I've had a few in the last like couple years since I've kind of learned this, but I mean, I was having them every day. So, I mean, for the most part.
So you were kind of your first patient where you're like, wow, this really works. Mm-hmm. Like I can feel it. And so you've just kind of followed it. You don't worry. Like, well, obviously, like you've seen a whole bunch of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing. So then when I was like doing it on my mom, and like she was having some chronic fatigue problems and some serious health problems, and I like majorly helped her. So then again I was like, okay, that's really weird. So then she had some friends for me to try some things on, and I did, and I helped them, and I was getting information that I was almost worried to give them because it was like for example, the one friend I had gotten, she had a rash suddenly come out of nowhere, and I think it was a mushroom or something, like an I don't remember specifically, but I think it was a specific lion's mane. I think it was lion's mane. Like it was a lion's mane allergy, and that just seemed so specific. I was really scared to say it. So my mom like said to her, like, did you start taking like lion's mane? And she's like, no. But then she looked at a multivitamin that she had just gotten, and it had lion's mane in it. Then she stopped taking it, and then the rash went away. So I started getting and there was another thing with this little boy I had worked on. I got something about copper, like being too much copper. And so then again, she looked at a supplement, and there was copper in one of them, and then like somehow it made sense to her. Like I don't remember, but so sometimes I get this really specific information that I'm like, I don't know, like I'm putting myself out there to be totally wrong, but it's always proven to be right. Even if someone doesn't recognize it right away, like later, like, you know what, like that was in something that I ate or drank or came from somewhere or whatever.
Wow.
So it's crazy, but yeah, I mean, it's helped. I've helped 2 women get pregnant. So interestingly, because I helped my own migraine, so I had met a guy at my group, Past Life Regression. He came in and he's like, I just want to warn you, I have a really bad migraine, so I might end up leaving in the middle of the session, and if I do, I just don't want you to be offended. He's like, I really wanted to come, even though I have this migraine, and I think it's going to impact me. So of course I told him I cured my own migraines, and he was extremely skeptical, but very desperate. And so like a week later, he's like, okay, I'm willing to give this a try, and he's been better since. So
wow,
it's now 2 migraines. So I mean, I've helped with all kinds of different problems. Because at the root of almost everything is all this trapped trauma and trapped emotion that we accumulate from the time, not only from the time we're born, we literally come in this life with inherited trauma and past life trauma, and then we accumulate more on top of it. So the one guy I worked with, I don't remember that he had a specific issue, but I'd helped his wife so much. His wife was very chronically ill, and I helped like completely turn her life around. Like after I worked with her, she said, I haven't felt this good in 20 or 30 years. So he was just so impressed with his wife's transformation. He's like, let me just kind of see what you can do for me. I don't think he had a specific issue that he shared. His wife shared with me later that I helped some things that he didn't even tell me about, and she was grateful that I helped those things, but I didn't even know about them. But almost everything I found in him, though, was inherited. And so I said to him, like, this might be really weird because, like, you've literally never lived your life without these things, because almost everything I found in him was inherited. There wasn't a whole lot that was from this life. And so the couple times I followed up with him, he was just like, it's a lot. Like, I just don't feel like me. Like, it's getting used to this whole new, like, I don't even know who this person is because this just feels weird, you know? So it's, I haven't talked to him, but I did see his wife again, and she said, no, he's doing good. He has a hard time expressing himself, and he's not the most, like, open person, but that he's doing well. So.
Wow, that's a lot, especially in a relatively short period of time that you've gotten to test this in all these different ways and see all these different people. Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry. One more thing though that I thought of. I think one of the most profound things I ever heard. So I worked on a guy who was autistic. His mom had referred him, but he was an adult, a young adult. And so after the session, he had a hard time being verbal. I mean, he was verbal, but like he was more than mildly on the spectrum. But he said to me, he was like, I can't tell exactly. This might not be his exact words, but the gist of what he said was, I can't tell exactly what shifted, and I know something has shifted, and I know that I'm not the same person that I once was. And he's like, and honestly, that scares me a little bit, but I know it's a good thing. So
yeah, I will say that. So Dawn did my heart walls, which is an emotion code. That's like a term that comes from there, and it's trapped. It's like my heart is guarded from pain and from not wanting to get hurt, and I felt as you were doing it, like over the course of those days, I was like, things are shifting, and it did feel kind of scary because it's like, this is new, this is different. There's those are protectors, right? Mm-hmm. So I felt like kind of vulnerable, but it did make me feel more like love towards, for instance, my parents, who I'd kind of kept at arm's length, and so I'm curious, like what's going to happen next as I try to navigate, like for instance, that relationship of, but they're reaching out, and I've sort of been like, and so we can maybe have a chance to have, and my father is at the end of his life, and maybe we can have some connection that we wouldn't have had because I was too guarded. But it is new. I get the scary part, mm-hmm. because it is like, it's unsettling at first, but you said just like, give it time, let it happen. And I did sort of take some downtime and tried to just like, let it sort of shift in me. And I guess I would say I'm feeling lighter. It's new. It just happened. But is it related to the past life sessions at all? I know my past life, and okay, I wanted to ask you this about my past life sessions. Because I didn't think about this till afterwards. I do, my counselor is internal family systems, which is also known as parts work, which is that you have, it's kind of like the movie Inside Out, where you have all the little mm-hmm. emotions in you, and they're like, and sometimes they're embodied. I can see them as like a little person or a little, and I have very strong protector parts that are going to keep me from seeing something that is hurtful, and although they're well intended, I can see why I've developed them. They've kept me from healing, and they've kind of gotten in my way, and so that's one thing in parts therapy and IFS that I've had a chance to work on. But do you think, because afterwards I'm like, I think my protector parts were keeping me from seeing painful past lives and pain that I've had in past lives, because they're like, no, don't need to see that, like, we're protecting you.
Mm-hmm. It's very possible. Yeah.
Because my past lives were pretty great. Mm-hmm. Like, they weren't, I got to see my past life as I think it was like an indigenous American woman. I think it seemed like, from the leather, just, although I was in it as a baby, I was like in this tightly wound, like papoose, kind of like a really warm, I don't know. So it was kind of a cold climate, I think. But anyway, I don't know, but it was I got very vivid imagery of being the baby in the papoose, and I wasn't, like, I could see the baby, So it wasn't like I wasn't like the baby, but and then the old woman, I could also see her face and all her really deep wrinkles and her missing teeth, but I could feel like her joy of being around her tribe, and that she was really really old. Like I think that was maybe, and even at the thing, I think I died right after that and went into another life, I guess. But that I felt really peaceful being with my tribe and safe, and um, so that was a really nice past life. Uh, and but I felt like there was, the reason I came to you was that there was painful things that I was trying to let go of, and ties to people here that had like, a lot of pain with them that I couldn't really reckon with or know where to put. Like, and like I get the word compartmentalize because it's like I just want to put this somewhere and not think about it. So that's the kind of thing that with the emotion code and body code you could kind of find and help me to release. Is there something that I'm supposed to do now?
No, not other than just allow it to happen and take care of yourself. You just want to make sure, I mean, no, I'm still working on your heart wall. So what you want to make sure though, because like sometimes what happens is it brings up a lot of stuff. So some of the defenses are gone, like you said, you're feeling vulnerable. Like the last thing then you want to do is shut down or feel something and not allow yourself to feel it and stuff it back in, because then you can, either trap stuff that hasn't fully left your field, or you retrap new things because you allowed yourself to get scared or whatever. So you want to try to remain open and just trust that the healing process is in your greatest and highest good, and just allow to whatever needs to flow through you. Listen to your body if it needs rest, if it needs water, if it needs, a salt bath is actually good too, because that kind of helps ground you, and it helps, clear out any of the residual energy that may be kind of hanging around your field. So, I mean, outside of that, no. I mean, I clear it. So, I mean, that's another thing I really love about the body code, is that it's so easy. Like, there's nothing you have to do. I mean, as someone who's done therapy, like, I know therapy works. I know it's a valuable process. But, I mean, the caveat is the person who is receiving the therapy has to be open enough to be truthful with themselves. Because if you go in just... Oh, there's my alarm.
That's a really good point, because I was having a hard time being truthful with myself because denial is my glitch, one of my glitches. So I wasn't able to.
Yeah.
So that's amazing that you are able to, because I've been working on this stuff for quite a while now, and there's things that I just couldn't access. Which, of course, if it's a past life, like, how are we supposed to do that? So, super fascinating, Dan. Thank you so much for talking to me.
You're welcome. I'm sorry to cut it short.
No, I know. We could talk all day.